Now, the first story happening in New Zealand that we are going to discuss will be, apparently, there will be quarantine camps for people who test positive for COVID, and apparently they will be forcibly held there. From what Stuff reports, and if I remember it correctly, I'll have the words right here, so if I'm wrong, you can read and see the accurate numbers in case I get them wrong. But according to Stuff, which is of course a highly credible news source that I would trust with all sorts of information, apparently there are 32 managed isolation and quarantine facilities in the country, and they have a capacity of 6,260 people. Now, what I find interesting about this, well, there are a few things about it, but one, apparently according to this article, there have been 25 coronavirus deaths. Now, I'm not too sure where this article got that number, because I haven't heard it. I mean, I know the Ministry of Health website has a bit of inaccuracies when it comes to reporting, and if you want to know what I mean by that, check out this video right here where I explain that. But, 25 deaths? I guess I could believe it, but I just have to see where it's, like, what the study or source they're saying for that, so, yes. But another thing I find interesting is, because this has, let's look through the lenses of COVID-19, and even if let's buy into it being a nationwide pandemic, even though the numbers do not showcase that, as I have mentioned in that video, although it's probably higher now, it's definitely higher now with Omicron. But let's look at this logistically, which I know a lot of people aren't interested in, like, logistics and that. It's a bit of a snooze fest for a lot of people. Personally, this is more sort of my thing, but bear with me, it will be brief. So, New Zealand has a population of 5 million people, you know, as we all know, the team of 5 million, which is totally a team, definitely. But, yes, so 5 million people. 32 managed isolation or quarantine facilities, and the max capacity of all of them is 6,260. Now, that is not even, I don't even think that's even a tenth of the New Zealand population. So if this was truly, if the New Zealand government did truly take this seriously, why haven't they put more money into making more managed isolation and quarantine facilities? Because if this truly is a pandemic that we all have to be afraid of, shouldn't they be taking it a bit more seriously, trying to put more money into the medical department? And I don't just mean Pfizer's pockets, I mean like actual, quarantine facilities and managed isolations. Because they're always talking about how their hospitals are overrun. Partially could be because of the vaccine mandate, now they're understaffed. I don't know, I haven't read the statistics on that, but yeah, it might be because the New Zealand government, they say they take it seriously, but their actions say something else. It's like, oh yeah, here's this small amount, which is pretty interesting because they've been putting in like millions of dollars have been just thrown around. I wonder where it's going. But I think the worst part about these quarantine camps is that the people being held there are being held against their will. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, I don't know, that sounds a bit out of it. I don't know, like, would New Zealand do something like that? Would Jacinda do that? Well, here's Jacinda Ardern herself saying that that's her plan.
The American left and their media poodles have long held up New Zealand as the model for how to properly deal with a lot of things, including COVID. But anyone who loves freedom should take note, because the Kiwis have a terrifying new response to rising COVID case numbers. They're throwing people into quarantine camps.
If someone refuses in our facilities to be tested, they have to keep staying. So they won't be able to leave after 14 days. They have to stay on for another 14 days. So it's a pretty good incentive. You either get your tests done and make sure you're cleared, or we will keep you in a facility longer. So I think most people will look at that and say, I'll take the test.
And apparently, despite the fact that it is nearing capacity, apparently these managed facilities, if you if you are an international, or like someone from another country, and you want to come to New Zealand, you will have to have proof that you have a reservation to one of these quarantine camps. Now, if you ask me, this is rather dystopian. I mean, we are forcibly holding people in quarantine camps until they test negative for a virus that isn't even... How am I going to put this? For a virus that is over-dramatized, shall we say. Now, again, I do recommend you checking out this video because that's where I break down sort of the numbers about it. Now, of course, those numbers will have changed since I did this a few months ago, but if you saw that video, you've seen that there have only... Okay, I'll put up the numbers here. Now, I haven't looked at them recently, and I'm sure they've gone up quite a bit, but just as you're looking at these numbers of the COVID-19 cases, as you're looking at them, I'll just remind you of a few things that I established in the previous video I did discussing the numbers. Keep in mind that a majority of the cases have recovered. Again, I haven't looked at the numbers in a few months, but this is what I've established previously. A majority of the cases have recovered. There have only been a handful of recorded COVID deaths, and even the website officially states that those are people who had COVID at the time of their death, not people who died because of COVID-19. That is in the website, unless they changed it.